Welcome back to another edition of the Knight Report podcast. I'm your host, Mike Broadbent. Joining me once again is my co-host, Richie O'Leary. We're going to do something a little different today. We are going to go through and just got to talk transfer portal, what we think the Rutgers football team needs to focus on in the offseason. And every year I do a deep dive into what I call speculative portal targets, where they're guys who are performing well at a lower level or guys who have connections to the staff or the area, who I think in the event of them entering the portal, we should target. Last year, the first guy I mentioned was Dymere Miller, and now he's the leading receiver on the team. So pat myself on the back a little bit there. And I pointed out quite a few guys who ended up going Power 4 as portal transfers, and guys Rutgers has ended up showing a lot of interest in. We'll dive into that. But first, this podcast is sponsored by Knight and Day Apparel. Hey, Rutgers fans, get ready to slam dunk your style with Knight and Day Apparel. Cheer on your Scarlet Knights this basketball season with our exclusive Rutgers gear. From trend-setting designs to lifestyle garments, we've got everything you need to support your team in comfort and flair. Stand out in the crowd and show your passion for Rutgers basketball with designs that celebrate every dribble, dunk, and victory. Use our promo code RutgersRivals to get 10% off your purchase. Don't wait. Head to Knight and Day Apparel today and gear up for game day. Go Knights.
So a couple of these in the student section the other day, these bad boys. I thought that was pretty cool. Yeah. A lot of good stuff. Trapezoid Terror, We Like Pike, Martini.
On Monday night, I saw multiple Trapezoid Terror shirts again.
Well, there you go. So there you go. Black t-shirt or a looks like a gray, white hoodie. I can't really tell. Gray.
Yeah,
grayish?
Looks like heather a bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, they got a lot of good stuff, and they'll have more coming out soon as well.
Yes.
We are also brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting. From the earliest odds to live in-game betting, BetOnline provides you with all the action and the ability to watch games as they happen. With the largest selection of odds on everything from football, NBA, college basketball, NHL, UFC, and MMA, head to BetOnline today and get in on the action with America's most trusted site for online wagering. BetOnline, the game starts here. So if you're on the boards, you probably have already seen this post where I kind of go through each position group and highlight individual players who I think we should target if they go into the portal. Let's just start off. We'll kind of talk about positions, and you can tell me if you're kind of on the same page with what I'm thinking. Let's start with quarterback. I have them in terms of needs at 0 players. Athan's the entrenched starter. AJ Surace is the heir apparent. Johnny Shepard is a usable depth piece, and then we have Sean Aschenfelder coming in the offseason. Where do you stand on where quarterback stands?
110%. They love Athan. They think Athan is a very more than capable quarterback, I should say. He is going to be QB1 next year. There will not be a competition. I don't see there being a competition. Now, that being said, if there are some struggles next season, they will obviously start looking into the other option, which is AJ Surace, who I've been very adamant over time and time again that he will be a multi-year starter on the banks. He has all the talent in the world, all the tools in the world. Does he have a higher ceiling than Athan? Yes. But is he at Athan's level yet? No. So let him redshirt this year because he was injured, if you recall. Missed most of training camp, if not all of it. And then let him redshirt, let him get healthy, let him come back next year, let him just keep learning this offense. And I think by his redshirt sophomore year, a.k.a. year 3, he should be the starter going forward.
Glad we're in agreement there. Next, running back. Obviously, we're losing Kyle Monunga. He's out of eligibility after the season. I know the staff's really high on this room between Samuel Brown, Antoine Raymond, and Sean Benjamin. They got John Forster coming in as well. I think the monkey wrench here is Sam Brown. Second time he's had a season-ending injury the last 3 years. His status and his status going into next season will probably be in question. You've already seen the staff offer another running back. I don't think they'll go after a back in the portal, but I would have said 0 had Sam Brown not gotten hurt, but slight possibility I think they go for a portal back, but I think more likely they go for a high school back. What do you think happens here?
I'm going to stay with 0 because they did offer Terrell Mitchell, the kid from Somerville, recently, a Wake Forest commit. They're pushing to try to get him on campus. If they get him on campus, it's just about just lock it down. That's more than likely going to happen if he visits campus. Add him, add Forster, 2 freshmen, then you'll have 2 redshirt freshmen in Ed Greer and Gabe Winovich. They also redshirted. Well, technically didn't officially redshirt yet, I guess, but he's only going to play 4 games this year because there's 3 games left. And Jayshon Benjamin, who will be a redshirt sophomore, Antoine Raymond, a true sophomore. That's 5 backs already. Sam Brown would make it 6. I just think, and if you get Mitchell 7, I don't think you can really. It's not worth it to waste a scholarship in this room for a transfer, especially because Raymond's pretty good. Benjamin's shown some good tools, and we see the Raymond's doing this as a freshman. Who knows? Maybe Forrester can do something as a freshman. He's a really good pass catcher. So I don't see a running back at all this cycle or offseason.
Yep, we're in agreement there as well. Wide receiver, I have between 0 and 1. KJ Duff and Ian Strong have obviously kind of transformed into the 1-2 punch of not only the present, but also the future. Obviously, Dymere Miller's in that mix as well this year. But I also think the staff's really high on Famature and Ben Black. You got a guy like Chris Long who could potentially come back for another year. I think it's like a luxury item to take another receiver, but I could see them possibly going after a veteran. But I think it's more likely they don't. Where do you stand on the receiver in the transfer portal?
I'm in the same boat. I'm looking at it now. Based on the incoming class and the current roster, that's if no one transfers, of course. They would have 14 scholarship wide receivers. Number one, that's a lot. But is it though anymore? Because you're going to go up to 105 ships, technically. Are they going to use all 105? To be determined. 5 incoming freshmen. Duff and Strong, like you said, are probably the starters. We've heard a lot of good things about Famature. Benjamin Black as well is probably not, or he already burned his red shirt. I take it back. So I'd be shocked if they went after a receiver. Could they go get like maybe a slot guy? Maybe, but I think also Benjamin Black could probably play that role too, with the 2 tall guys on the outside and Strong and Duff. But I mean, like you said, I'm going to agree with you on this one too. It's a luxury at that point. If you can find a guy, great. But you don't really have to go out and find one either.
Yep, definitely. Let's move to tight end. Kenny Fletcher had a pretty good season on the receiving end. I don't think he's really developed as a blocker yet. I don't think there's a whole lot behind him either in the system. You have Victor Konopka, who's been banged up and not really done a whole lot. Decent blocker, but not quite what they're looking for receiver-wise. Logan Blake, Mike Higgins, a few younger guys like Monty Fleener. There just hasn't really been any guys who have flashed enough. I could see them going for a tight end. I think it's a bigger need than receiver for sure. But this also feels a little bit like a luxury item. I have it between 0 and 1, probably shading towards 0. Where do you stand on tight end in the portal?
Yeah, they're going to add a freshman in Ben Rothar, who they're very high on. Matthew Gunny's on campus redshirting. Monty Keener's on campus redshirting. Logan Blake's actually shown more flashes than I thought he would at this point, and that's obviously with Fletcher and Konopka out. But I'd be a little shocked if they don't lose one actually in this transfer portal season, just because there's so many guys at this room, and you're mostly playing one tight end sets. You're not. I don't even know what other team does it, but a couple Big Ten teams do it. And those with the 12 personnel, you're not going to run 2 tight end sets really. So I would say there's a better chance they lose one than gain one. So I'm just going to stick with 0, I guess, -1.
Yep, fair enough. Offensive line, they will be having 4 of their 5 starters return, or at least opening day starters return for next season, or at least they're eligible to return for next season. You never know with the portal these days, but Holland Pierce was by far the best offensive lineman on the team, and he's out of eligibility. He'll be moving on to the NFL. I think he leaves a pretty gaping hole in the offensive line.
Big time.
And I think they could use some more usable depth. I know they have 6 freshman offensive linemen coming into the program. They had a bunch of guys from the last class as well. I still think I have them between 1 and 3 offensive linemen that they need. Certainly 1 starting level guy and depth level players as well. I know it's hard to find depth in the portal, but I think they should at least try. Where do you stand on offensive linemen in the portal?
I agree with you. You got to try to find at least one, preferably a tackle, a left tackle specifically. Now that guy's going to cost you a shit ton of money. We talked about it last offseason. There was average group of 5 linemen that were going for like $500K, $600K for a single season.
Wow.
They were involved with some tackles last year. Johnny Cornelius was one from Rhode Island, I believe they offered. I think he's at Oregon now.
Yeah, that was 2 years ago.
Oh, 2 years ago. There was someone else last year. Jalen Travis from Princeton. The other kid from Ivy League, Mendoza from Yale. I think it was
Yeah,
Yale.
Mendoza from Yale went to Louisville. Jalen Travis ended up at Iowa State. So they
Hmm.
were in on guys. They just weren't able to
Yeah.
reel them in.
Well, they do have Shedrick Rhodes, and it sounds like he's going to. Well, he has another year left because technically this would count as a redshirt year. He could play one of the tackle spots. I don't trust him enough to play left tackle because if he was good enough, he'd probably be out there. But
Yep.
at least at right tackle, not left, because Holland Pierce is there. But 21 ships on offensive line. I think they're going to lose some bodies too. Um, I think you try to get a left tackle if you can. If you have the money, of course, do it. But that's always going to be a factor at the end of the day. But maybe you find a JD DiRenzo who's not going to cost you too much from the lower level. So that's a tough one, but I would definitely try to at least get one. I'm not going to say they are going to get one, though.
Yep. That's definitely a high level need in my opinion,
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to a lot of the guys we've talked about being luxury needs. Another high level need, in my opinion, defensive line, losing a ton of depth along the defensive line.
Yeah.
In terms of too deep, they're for sure losing Aaron Lewis. They're for sure losing Keontae Hamilton, Malcolm Ray, Troy Rainey, Wesley Bailey. He is redshirting, so he could come back, or he's not red. He's out for the season, but he's only
Mm-hmm.
played 4 games, so he could use a redshirt year if he wanted to come back.
Yep.
Um, Mohamed Toure is expected back as well, and he's kind of oscillated between off-ball linebacker and pass rusher. So he kind of factors into this mix, but for sure you need one, if not two, interior defensive linemen. You need an edge probably.
Mm-hmm.
This is probably where they're going to do the most digging in the portal, if I had to guess. What do you think about their needs in the portal for defensive line?
Yeah, I mean, they've added a defensive tackle every year since Shiano's been back now. Dwan for Maije, Mayan Hanatu, Malcolm Ray, Isaiah
Aiton.
Aiton. Yeah, so that's 5 in a row. Yeah, that's it every single year so far. That's not going to change this year. They're going to do it again. I would be shocked if they didn't at this point. Now there's some younger guys coming in. Braxton Kyle's very talented. Giant Simon's very talented. True freshman. I don't see him making really that much of an impact as true freshman. I mean, could they rotate in and play a couple snaps? Sure, great. But true freshmen, it's too hard to count on them at the Big Ten conference level where it's just massive maulers up front. Josiah Peterson's getting there, but he came in very raw, so he's got a ways to go. Zaire Angoy, just a giant space heater. He'll play some. Keshawn Griffin's done better. Henry Hughes, we haven't really heard from. And then defensive end, it really depends on, I guess, Wesley Bailey. Jordan Thompson comes back, huge. Jordan Walker will be back as well, who's starting to flash recently. But after those two, and Bailey, of course, if he comes back, there's really not much experience. Abdul Rahman has played a couple snaps. DJ Allen has played a couple snaps. But in an ideal world, you probably go get another defensive end. How do you convince a defensive end to come in and say, hey, you're going to be a rotational piece. You're not going to be a guaranteed starter. That's if Bailey comes back, because Bailey would assume one spot, and I think Thompson would probably assume the other. So I don't know how you can promise a guy. It's really tough for defensive end. I think you ideally want one, of course, but I can't say for certain they're going to do that. I think defensive tackle, it's like a foregone conclusion at this point that they're going to get at least one. Hell, maybe even two.
Yeah. Yep. Moving on to linebacker, I have the need between one and two guys.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, lose Tyreen Powell this offseason due to due to graduation. You're hopefully getting Mohamed Toure back at 100%. The guys who have been thrust into action, Daryl Jabome
Mm-hmm.
and Moses Walker and Timmy Heinz-Peter, they've given their all, but I think this group could use an upgrade. Jabome has started to round into form. Moses Walker got benched last week. He didn't play a single snap, so I think that kind of tells you maybe it was just game plan specific for Minnesota, but
Mm-hmm.
him not playing, I think, is a sign. Yeah, linebackers are pretty easy to find in the portal, so I think they should at least go after one. What do you think they do in the portal with regard to linebacker?
So you're bringing in four this cycle, and Archie DeLoach, Kaba and McClary. They're very high on Samarian Robinson. Abram Wright, they're very high on. We don't know what the extent of his injury is, how serious it could be or could not be. I know he posted on Instagram the other day saying it's like prayers up, thank God it wasn't worse or something along those lines. I forget exactly what it was. So it sounds optimistic that it's not as bad of an injury as expected. But yeah, like you said, Moses Walker hasn't played at all this year, or I shouldn't say this year, this weekend. And that's a little bit of a concern because he was one of your top four linebackers this season. So Jabome has been a lot better, especially specifically last week. Mohamed Toure, if he comes back, will be a starter. I think you probably have those two, and you probably try to find a third guy. You could sell them on the fact that, hey, we did it in 2023 with three guys rotating in and out, and it worked out pretty well. Everyone got a significant amount of snaps, and after the entire injury after injury after injury this year at the linebacker room, you have to go add one at least, in my opinion.
Yep, totally agree. We'll see if they actually do it because I don't think they've targeted a single linebacker in the portal in the past. So see if that changes.
I don't think so. Maybe you're right. Damn.
A place that they have dipped pretty regularly into the transfer market is cornerback. Well, DB in general, but you're losing Robert Longerbeam and Eric Rogers this offseason, who are the CB1 and CB2 to start the season. Al-Shadi Salam and Bomaska have played a lot and played pretty well for the most part. And they're bringing in a few corners, and there's a few guys, that are recent signees they're really high on as well. But I think you got to at least grab one proven veteran from the portal. I mean, Chiano's got a really good track record with that. It wouldn't surprise me if Eric Rogers is a draftable guy this year after the tape he's put together while he's been at Rutgers. So that's, somebody you can point to when you're going out and recruiting to try and sway kids. I have it between 1 and 2 corners that they need. Where do you think what they do in the portal at corner?
Yeah, they've been really good with cornerbacks. If you're a DB, you should probably look into Rutgers a little bit, just for the sole fact that they've sent so many to the NFL, whether it be via the high school route or the transfer portal. I expect Flip Dixon to get a tryout at the very least, if not an undrafted free agent, actually. Shaquan Loyal, same boat, maybe if not drafted. Robert Longerbeam, past couple years, Christian Braswell turned into a really good DB. The list goes on and on there, but yeah, I'd say you probably have to go get a corner. Do I trust Mascow as a CB1? Probably not. Not just yet, at least. I think he's on the way to being a CB1, but maybe get a 1-year guy, just a stopgap that can fill in that CB1 role. Mascow plays CB2. Then you rotate in a bunch of different guys. You have Claudius, who they like a lot. Salam has played a lot this year, actually. And you're not going to play a freshman as a starter unless you're Chris Ash with Avery Young a couple years ago. But I think Dorillis and Clayton will see the field quite a bit. And Levy saw the field a couple games this year. He's not going to burn his red shirt, but he'll play too. So they do have some depth there. I think you only probably need one guy personally. But that's only if you trust Mascow as a CB2. If you don't trust him as CB2, then you have to go get 2 guys.
Yep, I agree with what you said there. Closing out here with safety. You're losing the top 3 safeties in terms of snap count so far this year in Flip Dixon, Desmond Igmanosin, and Shaquan Loyal. If you're talking about like what group gets hit hardest, it's probably the safety group.
Yeah.
You have Kaj Sanders, who the staff is high on, coming back. You have a few younger guys who are redshirting or coming in the 25 class. Safety is kind of a position, though, that you have to have some experience, in my opinion. So I have between 1 and 2 safeties needed for the portal haul. Where do you stand on safety?
Well, definitely 1. I think Sanders takes 1 spot, 100%. I mean, he's already the starter at this point, or was this past week. I expect that to be the same going forward. Dakari Gilly's super athletic. There's the guy they like back there as well, but again, hasn't played anything, and I don't think he actually appeared in a single game yet. After that, crapshoot, really. Antonio White, another guy they're high on, hasn't played. Noah Shaw or Isaiah Crumpler, Fury. No, you have to get at least 1. And with them kind of putting Igbinosin in that slot corner / safety type role this season, you probably have to replace that as well. Unless you just put Mascow there, and then you really, it gets to be a crapshoot because you're going to need a couple DBs at that point. Then I'd say 2 is probably right. But Sanders just solidifies himself as a starter in one of those spots at least.
Yep, I agree that Sanders ends up as a starter next year, but I don't think the second starter is on the roster yet, unless we have some crazy breakouts from guys who redshirted this past offseason. So if we're talking about total team needs, I have it somewhere between 6 and 16 in the portal. I definitely think it's going to be on the lower end of the scale there. But I think they got like 5 this past offseason. The offseason before that, I think they got like 7. So say around 7 or 8 portal guys, if we're being realistic.
Right. Yeah.
Some
Special
guys
teams?
special teams, yeah. Well, not kicker, not punter.
Long snapper
Long
would be the only
snapper.
one.
Yep.
If it's
Austin
105,
Riggs.
why not?
Yeah.
Like, just go get another one.
Yeah, long snapper, they'll probably look into. I don't think they'll try and land any like special teams aces, but you never know. It wouldn't surprise me. I'm going to run through some of the guys I've identified that we might show interest in. I'm going to start sharing like just basically the post that I made. It's going to be easier for everybody to follow along. If you want to read this post, it's on the round table. We're going to start on offense here. Again, I think it's more likely they go after a high school back, but if you're going to go after a college back, David Abbott at Villanova has had a really awesome season as a true freshman. He went to high school at Winston Churchill in Potomac, Maryland. He leads Villanova in rushing yards and touchdowns. He's got 126 carries for 716 yards and 7 touchdowns. And he's also got 3 catches for 35 yards. He only became the starter halfway through the season. So the first 4 games, he only had 22 carries, which is 6 a game. Since then, the last 6 games, he's averaging 17 carries a game. He had a 13 carry, 183 yard, and 4 touchdown game against Stony Brook. PFF wise, he's graded out an 85.2, which is 30th out of 484 qualifying backs. His brother also is in the Big Ten. He plays for Maryland, so I think that's probably the team to watch out for here if he decides to transfer. But
true freshman too is very impressive.
Yeah, yep. Some tape here. I'm not going to play that because I don't think it's likely to go after him. The other back I identified to watch out for is Zach Palmer-Smith. He has 1 year of eligibility. He went to Delran High School in Delran, New Jersey. He previously spent 2 years at Wagner. He played against Rutgers in that game in 23. I think he only had like 32 yards rushing. But he's really taken his game to the next level this year. He's got 189 rushes for 980 yards and 10 touchdowns. An additional 6 catches for 35 yards and touchdown through the air. He's the 82nd graded running back on PFF at a 79.6. I don't think we need to spend a whole lot more time here because I don't think these are super realistic, but just wanted to have some names to reference to watch out for. There's a couple of receivers from Monmouth I think we need to keep an eye on. Feel free to tap in whenever, Rich, or otherwise I'm just going to keep talking.
No, I mean, you're good. I mean, why not go to Monmouth again? It worked out pretty well this time. So,
yeah, Monmouth has done a really good job developing wide receivers. Their wide receiver coach, I think, is Kevin Callahan Jr., who's the son of the head coach. And most of the time, when you see the son of a coach on staff, you think, oh, nepotism, got a job because of his dad. But this guy seems to be just churning out wide receiver talent.
Yeah.
We obviously got Dymere Miller from Monmouth last year. Josh Derry, he's a true sophomore. He's only 5'9", 175, so he's not the biggest guy. He went to Concordia Prep in Towson, Maryland. He is one of the leading receivers in the FCS this year in terms of receiving yards per game. He's averaging almost 100 yards per game with 94.4. On the season, he has 47 receptions for 754 yards and 4 touchdowns in just 8 games. In Monmouth's only FBS game this year, he had 7 catches for 107 yards when Monmouth went down to FIU and beat the Panthers in that memorable game. His best game of the season, though, was a 7-catch, 227-yard, 2-touchdown performance against Maine. He also missed 2 games with an injury. PFF-wise, he's graded out really well, 83.1, which is 24th out of 1,062 qualifying wide receivers.
So I said it. They need a slot receiver. There you go.
Yeah.
5'9.5", and he needs to play 1 more year of college football. So there you go. That would make a lot of sense. I'm curious how much interest he ends up getting. Actually, that's one to keep a close eye on.
I think he'd be pretty sought after. I think he's fairly slight, but otherwise the production speaks for itself.
But Dymere Miller, similar situation, led all of FCS last year in receiving, and they landed him. So,
yeah, yep. Another Monmouth receiver is next, TJ Spate. He's got 1 year of eligibility. He's listed at 5'11", 170. He went to Meade High School in Fort Meade, Maryland. He's had a pretty good season. 47 catches, 625 yards, and 6 touchdowns in 10 games. He's got a pretty good PFF grade, 79.5, which is 55th out of 1,062 qualifying receivers.
mm-hmm.
Keep going here. Elijah Stewart is interesting. He's a receiver out of Lafayette. He's listed at 5'10", 179. He's a true junior, so he's got 1 year of eligibility left. He went to high school in Jersey at Holy Spirit High School in Galloway. On the season, he's caught 34 balls for 513 yards and a touchdown. He's only played in 6 games. He's had a few games that he's missed due to injury. He won National Player of the Week for this performance, where he caught 15 balls for 244 yards and a touchdown against Monmouth. Despite missing 4 games, he still leads the team in yards and catches. He's got a really good PFF grade at 82.2, which is 32nd out of 1,062 qualifying receivers. Last year, he also led Lafayette in all receiving categories, so that's receptions, receiving yards, and receiving touchdowns. And this video is just him receiving that National Player of the Week from the Monmouth game. Jimmy Kibble is a receiver, not Jimmy Kimmel, Jimmy Kibble. He's a receiver out of Georgetown. He's 6'1", 200, true junior. He went to Loudoun County High School in Leesburg, Virginia. He's the leader for the Hoyas in receptions, in receiving yards, and touchdowns. He's only played 8 games. He missed 2 games due to injury. He had his best game of the year against Columbia, where he had 10 catches for 164 yards. He's got a really good PFF grade, 83.0. It's 25th in the country for all qualifying receivers. He also led Georgetown in receiving yards and touchdowns in 2023. He only had 33 catches, but that went for 753 yards and 8 touchdowns, which is almost 23 yards per catch. So he was just a deep play merchant last year.
Just not sure if they would need one with Duff and Strong starting to show out more and more.
I don't think so either, but I think after I went into everything, I realized I probably put too many receivers on this list, but
yeah,
whatever. The last receiver is Max Mosey out of Holy Cross, similarly sized to Kibble. He's 6'1", 200, true junior. He's from Harrisburg, PA, went to Central Dauphin High School. Mm-hmm. He leads the Crusaders in receiving yards with 657. Really good PFF grade at 82.5. Tight end, I only have one guy listed because the thing with tight ends is, like, most of the guys who produce are at the end of their careers, so they're seniors or redshirt seniors. And a lot of the guys that I was finding that might make sense, like a lot of them were at Ivy League schools, and you just don't really see many Ivy League kids leave early. And a lot of the guys who did have good stats were on their way out, like they didn't have any eligibility left. So I'm swinging for the fences here. This is Justin Jolly, who's currently at NC State. He's listed at 6'3", 235. He's a redshirt junior. He's got 1 year of eligibility left. He's a guy we talked about last year. Went to Iona Prep in New Rochelle, New York. He was the leading receiver for Johnny Shepard his junior year of high school. On UConn in 23, he was the leading receiver in both catches and receiving yards. So he had 56 catches for 578 yards and 2 touchdowns his last year with UConn. He ended up at NC State this offseason, and he's currently leading the Wolfpack in receiving yards with 565. He's second on the team in receiving touchdowns and receptions. He's averaging almost 17 yards per catch as a tight end in the ACC. That's pretty awesome. PFF-wise, he's graded out pretty well. He's at a 71.0, which is 50th out of 497 qualifying tight ends. With NC State having a bit of a disappointing season, I do wonder if a lot of guys stick around. But he would be a guy we should not walk but run towards, because he's also a good blocker. But again, this one's a little more unlikely than some of these other names.
Athleticism, size-wise, it kind of matches up with Kenny Fletcher, just a better version, to be honest with you.
Exactly.
He's everything you want Kenny Fletcher to develop into and more.
Yeah, he's total stud, and I would love to land the kid. If you look at some of his performances against big name teams, like I think against Tennessee in 23 when he was on UConn, he had like an 8-catch, like 90-yard performance, and that's like all the offense that UConn was able to get.
With the UConn team that barely threw the ball as is, he led their team in receiving. Like they were not good at all, and he still was the guy there.
We're gonna move on to offensive line now. We're gonna do tackles, and then we're gonna do guards. This is a kid that is really high on my list. Ryder Langsdale. He is the left tackle from Lafayette. He's listed at 6'7", 298 pounds. He's a redshirt junior. He's got 1 year of eligibility remaining. He went to high school at Ridgewood High in Ridgewood, New Jersey. Last year, he was a third-team All-American and was first-team All-Patriot League. I highlighted him last year, but he never ended up entering the portal. He started every game for the Leopards the last 3 seasons at left tackle. Last year, he graded out at an 86.6, which was 6th out of 626 qualifying offensive tackles on PFF.
Jeez.
This year, he's graded out really well as well, 75.5, which is 64th out of 635 qualifying tackles. This one just makes a lot of sense. Jersey kid, 1 year of eligibility left. If he's got NFL aspirations, like what better opportunity than to come and start at a Big Ten school? It allows the younger guys to develop and make it so that the transition from going from Holland Pierce to whoever the next guy that the staff develops isn't as big of a drop off. But I really like this kid.
Fits the need too, obviously.
Yep. This is a guy who I know I said guys don't typically leave Ivy League, so this is just more of a file it away name. Ryan Carr. He is the 6'4", 290-pound redshirt sophomore out of Columbia. He's got 2 years of eligibility remaining. He went to LaSalle College, which is Sam Brown's high school. He was Sam Brown's left tackle when he was there. This is his first year starting there. He's graded out pretty well, 75.3 on the season, which is 66th out of 635 qualifying tackles. Just a name to keep in the back of your mind for the future. JT Cornelius is a guy, another Monmouth guy. He's 6'6", 290. He's a redshirt junior. He's got 1 year of eligibility remaining. Another Jersey guy. He went to Southern Regional High School in Manahawkin, New Jersey. I've mentioned him in the past. He started the past 3 seasons at left and right tackle for the Hawks. He's graded out this season at a 73.1, which is 92nd out of qualifying tackles. He's also a kid who was a high-level wrestler in high school. He made the state finals at heavyweight in New Jersey his senior year, which I don't need to tell anybody who follows wrestling. That is a huge thing. It is not easy to make it far in the state tournament wrestling in New Jersey. This is another kid I really like, Kyle Brown out of Dartmouth. He's listed at 6'5", 295 pounds, redshirt junior. He's out of eligibility in the Ivy League after this year. He didn't play his freshman year, and this is his 4th year at Dartmouth. He went to high school at Marcellus High School in Marcellus, New York. He's really had a breakout season this year. His PFF grade is 85.5, which is 2nd out of all qualifying offensive guards, which is 658. He started every game this season at left guard, and he spent last year between right guard and left tackle starting every game. So he's a longtime starter, really high grade. If you can get a guy like this, you take him, but I don't see this as a super high priority kid.
I don't know if I know he's spent a lot of time at guard, so I just don't know if they would go after a guard with Felter, Asamoah.
Probably not. I think you're right there. The last offensive lineman I have on this list is Mike Entwistle. He's at Harvard. He's also out of eligibility. This is his 4th year with the Crimson. He's listed at 6'2", 295. He went to high school at Don Bosco in Ramsey, New Jersey. He started every game the last 2 seasons for Harvard at left guard. He's graded out pretty well on PFF with a 74.4 grade, which is 33rd out of all qualifying guards. I'm going to pause there. If you have any kind of notes on anybody, I'm sure you covered some of these kids in high school. If you have any anecdotes, otherwise we can keep going.
Yeah, no, I mean, you can just kind of keep going. I've looked into a couple of them. I know the Langsdale kid's the one to keep probably the closest eye on out of that offensive line group. Wide receiver, crapshoot. And then Justin Jolly. I mean, again, you said it best. If he hits the portal, like run after him, find him, get him.
Let's move on to the other side of the ball. Let's start with defensive tackle. This is another Lafayette kid, but another kid I'm really high on. Tyree Morris. He's listed at 6'6", 273. He's a redshirt sophomore, so he'll have 2 years of eligibility left. Went to Mechanicsburg High School in Mechanicsburg, PA. This is his first year starting for Lafayette. But so far, he's put up 54 tackles, 4.5 tackles for loss, 2 sacks, a forced fumble, and 4 pass breakups from defensive tackle. And as we all know, it's not super easy to rack up counting stats at defensive tackle, but he's shown the ability to do it. Really good PFF grade, 85.1, which is 12th out of 931 qualifying defensive tackles. His 91.2 run defense grade is second in college football out of 931 qualifying defensive tackles. He had a really good game against Bucknell. That's his best game of the season. 8 tackles, 1.5 tackles for loss, a sack, and a pass breakup.
A lot of Big Ten ties too. His cousin Jermaine Marshall played basketball at Penn State and Arizona State before transferring. It looks like his cousin Ahmad Collins also played football, I believe, at Penn State. If I'm reading this correct, so there's some Big Ten connections there.
But more importantly, he has the size that Shiano looks for in defensive linemen, which will not be something we can say about all the guys in this list, but a lot of them are playing at a lower level for a reason.
Yeah. 6'6" at D tackle's wild.
Yeah. Next up, we have Elijah St. John. He is a 6'1", 275 defensive tackle, true sophomore. Plays at LIU. 2 years of eligibility left. He went to Clearwater Academy International, which should sound familiar.
Yeah.
That's Antoine Raymond's program. That's Wesley Bailey's high school program.
Mm-hmm.
He's also Elijah St. John, originally from Canada. He's from Ottawa, Ontario. A little undersized, but this season he's amassed 34 tackles, 2 tackles for loss, 1 sack, 2 forced fumbles, and a block kick. He has graded pretty well on PFF, an 83.8 grade, which is 21st out of 931 qualifying tackles. He's also got a really good pass rush grade. His 83.3 pass rush grade is 7th best out of all defensive tackles.
Mm-hmm.
He won the Defensive Player of the Week this year, I think this is like week 6, for his performance against Rhode Island, where he had 4 pressures, 10 tackles, 1 tackle for loss, a sack, and a forced fumble. Another defensive tackle to keep an eye on, Sebastian Regis. He's a defensive lineman at Stony Brook. He's listed at 6'1", 260 pounds. He's a true freshman, so he has 3 years of eligibility left. He went to East Islip High School in East Islip, New York. Stony Brook very quietly has an excellent defensive line. I think 2 of the top 10 graded defensive tackles on PFF are seniors at Stony Brook, or I would have had them on this list as well. I think Rashawn Lawrence and I forget the other guy's name. But even playing like the third man in this rotation, he's gotten 17 tackles, 3.5 tackles for loss, a sack, a forced fumble, a fumble recovery, and a touchdown on the season. Regis is also a really high-level wrestler in high school. He won the New York State wrestling title at heavyweight as a junior before giving up wrestling going into his senior year to focus on football. PFF-wise, he's graded out really well, 79.5 grade, which is 48th out of 931 qualifying defensive tackles.
Yeah, and young, which is nice. I mean, if you can get a guy for multiple years, I think they would do it in a heartbeat, but they've done it before, actually. Mayan Hanatu, I think Maije was 2 years, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
I think that's their preference. I don't think they like one-year guys. If you look at mostly all of the guys they've landed, you start with Athan, Flip Dixon, Eric Rogers, the list goes on. Almost all the guys they land are multi-year guys. Even a guy like Willie Tyler, when they got him, had multiple years of eligibility.
Yeah, I forgot about that. All right.
Not that I used them all here, but that he did when he came in.
Yeah. Oh, well.
Yep. All right. This next guy is another guy I'm super high on and kind of confused as to why they didn't go after him last year. And we'll get into that more in a second. Eric O'Neill from James Madison. He's listed at 6'3", 250 pounds. He's a redshirt junior. He's got 1 year left of eligibility. He went to Tottenville High School in Staten Island. Like I said, he's a guy I highlighted last year because he spent 2 seasons at LIU, or he spent 3 seasons at LIU, a redshirt year and 2 years where he played, but he did enter the portal last year. Now, the FCS, they have something called the Jerry Rice Award, which goes to the most outstanding freshman. Think of it like the Heisman for freshmen. He was a finalist for that award his redshirt freshman year. He was a freshman All-American, first team All-NEC, and NEC Defensive Rookie of the Year. In 2023, he came back to LIU and won. He was an FCS All-American, NEC Defensive Player of the Year, and first team All-Conference. These numbers he put up at LIU were insane. So his redshirt freshman year, he had a PFF grade of 88.2, which was 18th out of all qualifying defensive tackles, which was 858, 51 tackles, 21 tackles for loss, 10 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, and a pass breakup. Okay, what did he do his second year? 82.0 grade, 28th out of 883 qualifying defensive ends, 81 tackles, 23.5 tackles for loss, 5.5 sacks, 1 forced fumble, and 4 pass breakups. So he enters the portal after last season, and he ends up at James Madison, which is a little surprising. And he's picked up right where he left off. So this year, through 9 games, he's got an 89.8 grade, which is 12th out of 893 qualifying defensive ends, 26 tackles, 11 tackles for loss, 6.5 sacks, and 2 pass breakups. If he enters the portal again, Rutgers has to go after this kid. Next up is Jet.
He's not the same Eric O'Neill from Paramus Catholic, is he?
That's a good question. I do not know. It could be.
Because he was a really good tight end out of high school. It would make sense, and the math would add up. Tottenville. I don't think it's him, actually.
Look up his LIU profile, because it'll say like where he went to high school.
It's close. It might be him. Eric O'Neill, what you say? Which profile?
His LIU profile. You know, sometimes they talk about like their entire background before they got through school.
I don't know, man. Like I'm gonna show you these pictures. I could be wrong. I can't screen share while you're doing this, but I feel like
it's all right.
That looks like him. That's close. It's very, very close. The same hair. That's got to be him. Yeah, no, that's 100% him. He was at Paramus Catholic, and then I guess ended up back at Tottenville, hometown Staten Island. Yeah, no, because he was really good in high school. I actually have a thing, our little article on him, because he went to Rutgers on 7-on-7 and as a high school senior, and I was like, oh shit, the kid's pretty good.
Yeah, I don't know if he slipped through the cracks or what, but he is a very high level player. Next on the list, another defensive end, Jack Dunkley at Duquesne. He's listed at 6'4", 290. He's a true sophomore, 2 years of eligibility left. He went to Neshaminy High School in Pendle, Pennsylvania. This year he's had a breakout season, 5th most sacks per game in the FCS at almost 1 as just a true sophomore. On the season, he's got 22 tackles, 10.5 tackles for loss, 8.5 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, and a pass breakup. He's graded out okay on PFF, 68.0, 417th out of 893 qualifying defensive ends. His best game of the season came against Robert Morris, where he had 3 sacks and a forced fumble, which is funny enough, it was last week, that game. Next up, AJ Pena. He is a 6'2", 243-pound defensive end on Rhode Island. He's a true junior, so he's got 1 year of eligibility left. He went to Somerville High School in Somerville, New Jersey. He's been a multi-year standout for Rhode Island. 3 straight years of very productive seasons. His freshman year, he had a 72.3 grade, 22 tackles, 6.5 tackles for loss, 5.5 sacks, and a pass breakup. His sophomore season, in 11 games, he had an 81.7 grade, 67th graded defensive end, 59 tackles, 15.5 tackles for loss, 9 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, and 4 pass breakups. This season, through 10 games, 77.8 grade, which is 91st out of 893 qualifying defensive end, 60 tackles, 15 tackles for loss, 8 sacks, and 2 pass breakups. He is a bit undersized, but he's been really productive in his career with Rhode Island.
Yeah, glad you said it because I was looking at 6'2", 243.
Yeah.
It's like Big East, Greg Schiano, defensive end.
Yep. A few more defensive ends. Noah Miles, who plays for Howard, 6'4", 250, true junior. Went to Hillsborough High School in Tampa, so maybe the Tampa connection there with Greg.
Mm-hmm.
He obviously played us week 1 this year. This season, he's totaled 32 tackles, 9.5 tackles for loss, 7 sacks, a forced fumble and a pass breakup, and a block kick. He's got a PFF grade of 64.4, which isn't great for a guy playing at that level, but thought it'd be a guy to reference because of his production, and he's played at Rutgers. The last defensive end I have on this list is Melkart Abu Jaboud. Sorry if I don't pronounce that right, but he's listed. He plays for Delaware. He's listed at 6'5", 260, true junior. Went to high school at Newton High School in Newton, New Jersey. It's his first year as a starter. He's got 21 tackles, 9 tackles for loss, and 8 sacks. He's got a pretty good PFF grade at 74.9 as well, which is 162nd out of 893 qualifying defensive ends.
Yeah, I got nothing.
Next up, linebacker, Cole Kozlowski. And before you say that name sounds familiar, there's actually 2 Cole Kozlowskis. One used to be an offensive lineman at Rutgers. This is a different guy, believe it or not. Same spelling of the name, everything. So this Kozlowski is listed at 6'2", 230. He's a true junior. He went to Manasquan High School in Manasquan, New Jersey. This year, he's second in the FCS in tackles with 117. He's also got 8 tackles for loss, 3.5 sacks, a forced fumble, an interception, and 4 pass breakups. On PFF, he's graded pretty well, 75.4 grade, which is 149th out of 795 qualifying linebackers.
Mm-hmm.
He was Patriot League Defensive Player of the Week twice this year. He also played Akron, which was the best game of his season, in my opinion. Against Akron, he had 13 tackles, 4.5 tackles for loss, and 2 sacks.
I know people are going to look at all these schools and just be like, why all these lower level guys? Why all these lower level guys? And it's like, that's the level you have to go at when you don't have significant NIL at the end of the day. And these guys are productive. Your best lineman via the portal is from Sacred Heart, like over the past couple of years. Your best, or one of your better cornerbacks, or best cornerback, I mean, whatever. Eric Rogers, Northern Illinois, like pretty damn good. So, I mean, it doesn't always have to be from Power 4 or Power 5, whatever you want to call it. Like, you could find some really good talent down there.
Damian Miller, too.
Damian Miller. I thought Jaquay Jackson, I know he didn't have a great year at Rutgers in his sole year. He was a little dinged up, too. But look at him now. He was on the Patriots roster before he might still be on the roster, injured reserve.
He tore his ACL in the preseason, unfortunately, but he was the highest graded receiver in preseason games, according to PFF, before he got hurt.
So, I mean, there's talent down at those levels.
Next up, we have Shane Hartzell of Villanova. He's a little undersized as well at 6 foot flat, 230. He's got 1 year of eligibility left as a redshirt junior. He went to Penridge High School in KZPA. He started every game for the Wildcats the past 3 seasons and put up some really good numbers. His freshman year, an 82.5 grade, 41st out of 787 qualifying linebackers, 74 tackles, 9 tackles for loss, 4 sacks, and a forced fumble. Sophomore year, an 89.9 grade, which was 7th out of 778 qualifying linebackers, 91 tackles, 6 tackles for loss, 4 sacks, and 4 pass breakups. This year, through 10 games, an 84.2 grade, 29th best grade for a linebacker out of 795 qualifying backers, 92 tackles, 6.5 tackles for loss, 4 sacks, and a forced fumble. His best game of the season was against New Hampshire, 20 tackles and 2 tackles for loss. Against his only FBS opponent on the season at Maryland, he had 7 tackles, 1.5 tackles for loss, a sack, and a forced fumble.
Tired yet?
Ty Davis, Ty Davis, the linebacker out of Delaware. He's listed at 6'3", 215. He's also a redshirt junior. He went to Lenape High School in Mount Laurel. He's been a 3-year starter for the Blue Hens. This season, he's got 37 tackles, 4 tackles for loss, 2 sacks, 2 interceptions, and 4 pass breakups. Really good PFF grade, 83.5. which is 33rd out of 795 qualifying linebackers. I mean, this seems like a guy who can play the pass pretty well. He's got the size, so this kind of fit everything that they typically look for.
Yeah, 1 year left. Makes a lot of sense.
The last linebacker we have is Carter Glassmeyer. He's listed at 6'1", 210, so he's a little bit undersized, but he's a redshirt sophomore. 2 years left in eligibility. He's currently at Richmond. He went to Central York High School in Central York, PA. Before being at Richmond, he spent 2 seasons at St. Francis in PA. His first year at St. Francis, or that he played, he redshirted in 22 and played in 23. He had a crazy good year in 23. He was another Jerry Rice Award finalist, first team All NEC, FCS freshman All-American. He had 90 tackles, 6.5 tackles for loss, 2.5 sacks, 1 forced fumble. He transferred to Richmond, picked up where he left off. This year so far, he's got 62 tackles, 6 tackles for loss, 2 sacks, a forced fumble, and 3 pass breakups. 82.0 grade on PFF, which is 44th out of 795. This guy, though, is a guy I really like. Kenny Selby out of Sacred Heart. He is a redshirt sophomore, 5'11", 193 pounds, 2 years of eligibility left. He went to high school at St. Augustine Prep in South Jersey. This year, PFF has graded him through the roof. 86.5 grade, which is 6th best out of all qualifying corners, which is 844. He's got 32 tackles, 1 tackle for loss, 6 pass breakups, and 1 forced fumble on the season. He's a part-time starter as a redshirt freshman. This year he started every game for Sacred Heart. He's allowed just a 51% catch rate this season on 35 targets and only 1 touchdown on the year. And there's 3 games where he didn't even get targeted all season, or all game, I'm sorry.
I know Shiano loves his tall and lengthy DBs, but Robert Longerbeam's been one of the better ones. Christian Braswell is a little bit smaller. So, I mean, that would make a lot of sense. I know it's not the 6'2", lengthy guy that he wants, but, I mean, they've produced, so.
Yeah. Yep. Next up is Carter McFadden. He's 5'11", 180. He goes to Columbia right now, but this is his 4th year in the program, so he won't have any eligibility left. He's got 1 year remaining. He went to Montgomery High School in Montgomery, New Jersey. He started every game at corner the last 2 seasons for Columbia, and he was a key reserve in 22. He's got 37 tackles, 3 picks, and 13 pass breakups this year. He's also the primary punt returner for Columbia, and he returned majority of kicks in 2023. PFF-wise, he's graded really well, a 77.9 grade on the season, which is 86th out of 844 qualifying cornerbacks.
But can he fair catch?
Good question.
That's what they need, a new fair catch guy.
They do need a new fair catch guy since Christian Drummel is out of eligibility after this year.
Yeah, someone's got to do it.
Someone has to do it. We'll see if it's him. Last up on corners, we have Cam Jones. He is 6 foot, 195-pound corner out of Holy Cross. He's a redshirt freshman, 3 years of eligibility left. He went to Wilson High School in Reading, PA. Really good first year of college ball for him. He started every game for the Crusaders, 48 tackles, 1 INT, and 9 pass breakups on the year. In his only game against an FBS opponent, he held his own at Syracuse, 5 tackles, half of a tackle for loss, and 2 pass breakups. And it was also his 2nd highest individually graded game on the season with an 84.0. On the year, he's got a 77.3 grade, which is 103rd out of 844 qualifying corners. So,
redshirt freshman tells me Bob Chesney recruited him there, and I trust anything that guy does after what he's done at Holy Cross and now what he's doing at James Madison.
Yep. It's kind of surprising he didn't leave as well, but I guess when you haven't played at all, it's tough to know what you got.
But seems pretty solid.
We're closing out here with the safeties, and this next guy might be the guy I want the most out of anybody we've talked about so far. So how about that for a tease? Safety, Nick Peltekian. He is a safety out of Lehigh. He's listed at 6 foot, 210 pounds. He's a redshirt sophomore. He went to Mahwah High School in Mahwah, New Jersey. He also had a prep year at Deerfield Academy in Deerfield, Massachusetts. He's had a really good season in 2024, 56 tackles, one forced fumble, 3 interceptions, an interception return for a touchdown, and a pass breakup. Last year, his first year as a starter, 91 tackles, 4 tackles for loss, 5 pass breakups, and a forced fumble. So there's 906 qualifying safeties. Peltekian is the number one graded safety according to PFF this season with a 91.9 grade. Just too many things that make sense for this to happen. Multiple years of eligibility, Jersey kid, the need at safety, crazy grades, crazy production. This would be a no-brainer.
A little bit older too for his class because the what do you call it, the prep year too, which is always helpful.
Yeah. Yep. So this would be his 4th year out of high school at this point. So mature kid. Love that Landis kid. We'll see if it happens.
Yeah.
Next up at safety, KTC. He's a safety out of Delaware. He's listed at 6'2", 189 pounds. He's a redshirt sophomore, so he's got 2 years of eligibility left. He went to Maury High School in Norfolk, Virginia. This is his 2nd year starting for the Blue Hens. He's got 30 tackles, 1 tackle for loss, 1 sack, 4 picks, and 2 pass breakups on the year. PFF has also graded him out spectacularly with an 89.9 grade, which is 4th out of 906 qualifying safeties. Last up on this list is Ryan Moore out of Sacred Heart, 6'2", 189 pounds, redshirt sophomore, 2 years of eligibility remaining. At high school, he went to LaSalle College, so he also played with Sam Brown. He's been really successful so far at Sacred Heart. 21 tackles this season, 1 tackle for loss, 2 interceptions, 4 pass breakups, and a forced fumble. He's graded really well, 83.2, which is 37th out of 906 qualifying safeties on PFF. My mouth's dry as hell. Rich, is there anything from this list or any kind of takes you have on some of these targets?
Not anything specific. I know they definitely need some help. I actually went back and looked at your old list from last year. So you did have Dymere Miller as the first guy, which ended up working out. You did have Ryder Langsdale too, which I thought was a little interesting. Yeah, I mean, they're going to be active this year without a doubt. I know people in the past couple years, like Rutgers or Greg himself actually said this. They're going to use the portal to fill gaps where needed. It's not the case anymore. This is a changing dynamic with high school, or not just high school, with football recruiting in general. People are shying away from the high school route more and more and going right towards the portal. Do you want a 4-year offensive tackle that you have to develop on your own, or you want to just go pick up the guy who's played 300 snaps down the road, Jersey kid, and he's probably better than, and he'll be, I take it back, he'll be ready right away to play maybe 1 year, maybe 2 years, depending on what they have left. But it's just so much easier to let, it sounds ironic to do this, but let someone else develop him. And then I can just pick him up when he's ready. And I know people have pointed towards Colorado as a program that's been very, very active in the portal. Look at them now. They're a top 25 program. I know there was some faults here and there, and especially in year 1. Year 2, they're top 25 without a doubt. And do they have some high school kids? Yeah, a couple here and there. But they've also rebuilt their entire line with portal guys. They've rebuilt their entire defense with portal guys. Like, it's all about the portal now. The portal is going to eventually, in my opinion, overtake high school football recruiting. And that's just going to be free agency, basically. And kids are just going to leave whenever they want. I mean, we've seen the Iowa starting running back and LaShawn Williams go to the portal. We've seen Thomas Castellanos today enter the portal, or plan to enter the portal. Like, this is just the way of the world. Like, if you're not playing me, I'm just going to leave, and I'm going to go find somewhere better to play. So this is a good head start on what should probably be another chaotic offseason.
Yep, I'm here for it, though. I cannot wait for portal season to start. I don't know what it is about the chaos of it and the daily new things that happen that just kind of does it for me. But
It's fair.
I want to thank everybody who's stuck it out for almost an hour talking about hypothetical portal guys. If you like this kind of stuff, maybe we'll provide some more content like this. But otherwise, you can read all the write-ups I did on the board, and anybody else who jumps into the fray will be added to that list as well. Is there anything else you wanted to hit on before we head out of here, Rich?
National Signing Day basketball. If you're listening to this and they still haven't signed, quote unquote, they did sign technically. It's just logistics. They have to tweet it out in order for everyone to officially announce they've signed. But as you saw on our Twitter page at Rutgers Rivals, Lino Mark already signed. I was told Chris Nawoli signed. Who am I missing? Javante Ware and Keaton Powers. All 4 are expected to sign There's no worries. There's no issues. That's basically it, I think. Game on Friday, Monmouth. Game on Saturday, obviously, too. In Maryland, 6 p.m. Yuck. But
Yeah.
Alec will be there on scene. So I don't know what we're doing post-game type thing. I don't know yet. I have a Friendsgiving, too, so technically. So, yeah, it's going to be a little tricky, but we'll figure it out.
All right. Well, thanks once again for listening. This has been another edition of the Knight Report podcast. Signing off.